The stars had been silent for 10,000 years. The Galactic Council ruled over 847 different worlds, each one filled with beings who had learned to bow their heads and follow orders. They called it peace. They called it civilization, but it was really just fear dressed up in fancy words. Daehyun sat on his crystal throne in the center of the great council chamber. His blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights and his 3 eyes moved slowly across the reports on his desk. Another primitive world had been found. Another backward planet full of creatures who didn't know their place in the universe. "Tell me about this new world," Daehyun said to his advisor, Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon stepped forward. His scales clicked against the metal floor as he walked. "The scouts call it Earth, Your Excellence. It's a small blue planet in the outer rim. The creatures there call themselves humans." "Humans." Daehyun repeated the word like it tasted bad. "How primitive are they?" "Very primitive, sir. They still fight wars among themselves. They haven't even left their own solar system yet. Our scouts say they're aggressive and violent. Perfect candidates for our guidance program." Daehyun smiled. The guidance program was his favorite part of ruling the galaxy. When they found a new world, they would send a message. Join the council willingly, or be forced to join. No one had ever said no. No one was stupid enough to fight against the most powerful force in the galaxy. "Send the usual message," Daehyun ordered. "Give them 30 days to surrender. If they refuse, we'll show them what happens to worlds that don't appreciate our help." Far away from the council's shining capital, on a small blue world called Earth, Captain Hyunwoo stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force. The room was dark except for the glow of computer screens. Red warning lights blinked on and off, casting strange shadows on the walls. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from space," said Communications Officer Min Jung. Her fingers moved quickly over her keyboard. "It's not from any of our satellites." "Put it on the main screen," Hyunwoo ordered. The screen flickered and suddenly they were looking at a face that definitely wasn't human. The being had pale skin and large black eyes. When he spoke, his voice was cold and formal. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of Earth. I am Taemin, speaking for the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for integration into our peaceful confederation." Hyunwoo felt his hands tighten into fists. He had been waiting for this day for 20 years. Ever since the first crashed alien ship had been found in the Pacific Ocean, he had known that Earth wasn't alone in the universe. "You have 30 rotations of your planet to surrender all governmental authority to the Council," Taemin continued. "Resistance is pointless. The Council has never been defeated. Accept our guidance and your people will be allowed to live in peace under our protection. Refuse and you will be conquered by force." The transmission ended. The command center fell silent. Everyone was looking at Hyunwoo, waiting for him to say something. "Get me General Sunho," Hyunwoo said quietly. "And contact Dr. Boram at the research facility. Tell them it's time." While Hyunwoo was making his calls thousands of light years away, the Galactic Council was already planning Earth's conquest. In a war room filled with floating holographic displays, military advisor Ji-hoon was explaining why one ship would be enough. "The humans are barely out of their Stone Age," Ji-hoon said to the gathered officers. "Their most advanced weapons are crude chemical explosives. One of our dreadnoughts could destroy their entire civilization without breaking a sweat." Commander Woo Jin nodded his agreement. He had conquered 17 primitive worlds in his career. This would be number 18. "Should we bring the usual surrender protocols, sir?" "Of course," Ji-hoon replied. "Fire a few warning shots at empty areas. Show them our power. They'll surrender within hours. They always do." What the Council didn't know was that Earth had been preparing for this day. Deep underground in a secret facility hidden beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Boram was putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest secret. The facility was filled with strange machines that hummed with alien energy. Crashed ships from a dozen different species had been brought here over the years. Each one had been taken apart, studied, and rebuilt with human improvements. "How many ships do we have ready?" asked General Sunho as he walked through the facility. 50 fighters and 10 cruisers, Boram replied. "Not much compared to what they probably have, but each one is faster and more maneuverable than anything they've ever seen." "Will it be enough?" Boram smiled grimly. "It'll have to be. But we have one advantage they don't know about." "What's that?" "We're not civilized." Back on Earth's surface, President Jin Ho was meeting with his military commanders. The president was a small man with gray hair, but his eyes were sharp and determined. He had spent his entire political career preparing for this moment. What's our response going to be? Asked Admiral Young-Soo. Jinho looked around the room at the faces of Earth's greatest military minds. These were people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. They deserved an honest answer. We're going to tell them no, Jinho said simply. Sir, said General Sunho, they probably have thousands of ships, technology we can barely understand. Are you sure about this? I'm sure, Jinho replied, because I'd rather die free than live as a slave, and I think most humans feel the same way. 2 days later, Earth's response was transmitted into space. It was short and simple. Thank you for your message. We have considered your offer. Our answer is no. Earth will remain free. When the message reached the Galactic Council, Daehyun couldn't believe what he was hearing. In 10,000 years of rule, no one had ever simply said no. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. They must not understand, Daehyun said to his advisors. Send another message. Explain to them what happens to worlds that refuse our guidance. But even as he spoke, Daehyun felt a strange feeling in his stomach. It was something he hadn't felt in centuries. It was doubt. On Earth, Captain Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of Luna Base looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were probably already heading toward Earth. Ships with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Ships filled with beings who thought humans were nothing more than clever animals. They were about to learn how wrong they were. All stations report ready. Sir, said Communications Officer Hai-jin. Hyunwoo nodded. Then let's show them what humans are really made of. The war for Earth's freedom was about to begin. The Council's dreadnought Cosmic Harmony dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a mountain falling from the sky. The ship was 3 kilometers long and covered in weapons that could crack planets in half. Commander Woo Jin stood on the bridge looking at the small blue world through the main view screen. Such a tiny planet, Woo Jin said to his tactical officer. Hard to believe these primitives thought they could refuse the Council. Shall we begin the demonstration, sir? Asked Lieutenant Kyung-soo. Standard procedure, Woo Jin replied. Move into orbit. Fire warning shots at their moon. When they see our power, they'll surrender immediately. The Cosmic Harmony moved toward Earth with the slow confidence of a predator that had never met anything that could fight back. Its sensors detected the usual signs of a primitive civilization: radio signals, small chemical rockets, and weapons that were laughably weak. What the sensors didn't detect were the objects floating silently in Earth's orbit. Objects that looked like simple communication satellites but were actually something much more dangerous. On Luna Base, Admiral Young-Soo watched the alien ship approach on his tactical display. The base was built into the side of a crater, hidden from view. Around him, dozens of technicians worked at their stations, their faces lit by the glow of computer screens. Target acquired, said Tactical Officer Jin Seok. The alien ship is moving into position. How many crew members do you estimate? Young-Soo asked. Approximately 3,000, sir. Young-Soo felt his stomach tighten. 3,000 beings who were just following orders. Beings who probably had families waiting for them at home. But those beings were here to enslave humanity, and that made them enemies. All stations, this is Admiral Young-Soo, he said into his communications headset. Operation Thunderbolt is now active. You are authorized to engage. High above Earth, the objects that looked like satellites suddenly came to life. Solar panels folded back to reveal weapon barrels. Targeting systems that had been dormant for years began tracking the alien dreadnought. Captain Min Jung was piloting one of Earth's new fighters, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid. Her ship was small and fast, built from salvaged alien technology and human engineering. She'd been waiting in the cold vacuum of space for 6 hours, but she didn't feel tired. She felt excited. All fighters, this is Falcon Leader, Min Jung said over the radio. Target is in position. Wait for my signal. The Cosmic Harmony reached Earth's orbit and began its intimidation display. Weapon batteries swiveled toward Luna, preparing to fire warning shots that would send chunks of moon rock flying through space. That's when Earth struck back. The hidden defense platforms opened fire all at once. Beams of energy that the aliens had never seen before reached out across space and slammed into the dreadnought's shields. The ship shuddered under the impact. What was that? Woo Jin shouted as alarms began blaring on his bridge. Unknown energy signatures, sir, his tactical officer replied. I'm detecting at least 20 hidden weapon platforms. Impossible. Our sensors showed nothing but primitive satellites. But before Wu Jin could figure out what was happening, Captain Minjung led her squadron of fighters out of the asteroid field. The human ships moved like angry wasps, darting and weaving in patterns that confused the alien targeting computers. Falcon Squadron, engage at will, Minjung ordered. The fighters opened fire with weapons that used the aliens' own technology against them. But the humans had made improvements. Their weapons charged faster, hit harder, and never seemed to miss. On the bridge of the Cosmic Harmony, chaos was spreading. Officers who had never faced real combat were panicking as damage reports flooded in from all over the ship. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage," shouted Engineer Dongmin. "Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. "How is this possible?" Wu Jin demanded. "They're primitives." Communications Officer Hye Jin, who was monitoring human radio signals, suddenly looked up with a shocked expression. "Sir, you need to hear this." She put the human transmissions on the bridge speakers. What came through was unlike anything the aliens had ever heard in battle. It wasn't the formal military communications they were used to. It was wild, chaotic, and somehow terrifying. "Falcon 2, you've got a bogey on your 6. I see him. Oh, he's ugly. Going to ram the bastard. Negative, Falcon 2. Save your ship." "Too late." For Earth, the aliens watched in horror as a human fighter deliberately crashed into one of their weapon batteries, destroying both ships in a ball of fire. The pilot had chosen to die rather than retreat. "They're insane," whispered Tactical Officer Jin Seok. But the humans weren't insane. They were fighting for their homes, their families, and their freedom. And they fought with a desperation and creativity that the aliens couldn't understand. Admiral Young Soo coordinated the battle from Luna Base, watching as his carefully planned strategy unfolded. The defense platforms kept the dreadnought busy, while the fighters attacked its weak points. It was like watching ants bring down a giant. "Sir, the alien ship is trying to retreat," reported Tactical Officer Jin Seok. "Let them go," Young Soo ordered. "We've made our point." The Cosmic Harmony limped away from Earth with a third of its crew dead and most of its weapons destroyed. Commander Wu Jin sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. "How do I report this?" he asked his surviving officers. "How do I tell the Council that primitives destroyed a dreadnought?" "Tell them the truth, sir," said Lieutenant Kyung Soo. "Tell them these humans fight like nothing we've ever seen." Back on Earth, President Jin Ho was addressing the world on emergency broadcasts. Every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet was carrying his speech. "My fellow humans," Jin Ho said, looking directly into the camera. "Today we faced our first test as a free species. An alien empire came to our world and demanded our surrender. We said no, and when they tried to force us to submit, we fought back. Around the world, people watched as footage of the battle played on their screens. They saw human fighters dancing between alien weapon beams. They saw defense platforms that had been hidden in plain sight. They saw their own species standing up to beings with technology beyond imagination. This is not the end," Jin Ho continued. "This is only the beginning. They will come back with more ships, more weapons, more threats. But we will be ready. Because we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for the right of all beings to choose their own destiny." In the secret research facility, Dr. Bo-Ram was already working on the next phase of humanity's defense. The battle had shown that their technology could compete with the aliens, but they needed more ships and better weapons. "How long until we can mass-produce the fighters?" asked General Sun Ho. 6 months for full production," Bo-Ram replied. "But I have an idea that might give us an edge." "What kind of idea?" "The aliens fight like they're following a rule book. Honor-bound combat, formal tactics, predictable strategies. But humans don't have a rule book for space combat. We're making it up as we go along." General Sun Ho smiled grimly. "You're saying our inexperience is actually an advantage?" "Exactly. They can't predict what we'll do because we don't know what we're supposed to do." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. For the first time in 1,000 years, one of their ships had been defeated by a primitive species. Daehyun's 3 eyes were wide with shock as he listened to Commander Wu Jin's report. "They fought without honor," Wu Jin said via holographic transmission. "They used suicide attacks, ambush tactics, and weapons that seemed to violate every rule of civilized warfare." "Impossible," said military advisor Ji Hoon. "No primitive species has ever resisted successfully." "Then explain my destroyed ship." Wu Jin snapped. "Explain my dead crew members." Daehyun felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Embarrassment. How could he tell the other council members that a single primitive world had defeated their mighty fleet? His reputation, his authority, everything he had built was in danger. This is clearly an anomaly, Daehyun declared. One ship against an entire world isn't a fair test. We'll send a proper battle fleet and end this foolishness once and for all. But even as he spoke, Daehyun wondered if perhaps they had underestimated these humans. And deep in his mind, a tiny voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, the age of easy conquest was coming to an end. On Earth, Captain Hyunwoo stood once again on the observation deck of Luna Base, looking out at the stars. This time, though, he wasn't alone. Captain Minjung stood beside him, her flight suit still smelling of ozone from the battle. Think they'll be back? Minjung asked. Oh, they'll be back, Hyunwoo replied. And they'll bring friends. Are you worried? Hyunwoo thought about the question for a moment. Then he smiled. No, let them come. Today we prove something important. What's that? That humans don't make good slaves. The Council's response came 3 months later. Not one ship this time, but 50. The largest battle fleet assembled in 500 years hung at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a storm cloud made of metal and death. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of the flagship, Eternal Order, looking at tactical displays that showed the tiny blue world ahead. His forearms moved gracefully as he adjusted his uniform. This was his chance to restore the Council's reputation and crush the rebellion that had dared to embarrass them. All ships report ready. Admiral, said his tactical officer, Commander Si-jin. Excellent, Kyung-soo replied. Begin the advance. This time we show no mercy. These primitives need to learn the price of defying the Council. The 50 ships moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. Each ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Together, they carried enough firepower to turn Earth's continents into glass. What they didn't know was that Earth had been busy during those 3 months. Dr. Boram had worked day and night in her underground facility, pushing human engineering beyond its limits. The crashed alien ships had given humanity a head start. But human creativity had taken their technology in directions the aliens never imagined. How many ships do we have now? Asked General Sun Ho as he toured the production facility. 200 fighters and 30 cruisers, Boram replied with pride. Plus some surprises the aliens won't expect. What kind of surprises? Boram smiled and led him to a section of the facility he'd never seen before. Behind thick blast doors, teams of engineers were working on something that looked like a metal asteroid. Stealth mines, Boram explained. We scattered them throughout the solar system. They look like space rocks, but each one packs enough punch to cripple a cruiser. Meanwhile, Admiral Young-soo was coordinating Earth's defenses from his new command center on Ceres Station. The asteroid belt had become humanity's fortress, filled with hidden bases and weapons platforms. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up the alien fleet, reported Communications Officer Nari. 50 ships, approaching on Vector 77 Alpha. Any response to our surrender demands? Young-soo asked with dark humor. They're not even acknowledging our transmissions. Sir, then I guess they want to do this the hard way. Young-soo activated the general communications channel that connected every human military unit in the solar system. From Luna Base to the outer asteroid mines, thousands of soldiers heard his voice. All units, this is Admiral Young-soo. The aliens are back, and this time they brought friends. They think 50 ships is enough to break us. Let's show them how wrong they are. Captain Minjung was floating in space near Jupiter, her fighter powered down to minimum energy. Around her, 19 other pilots waited in the cold darkness. They had been here for 2 weeks, patient as spiders in their web. Falcon Squadron, this is base, came the whispered transmission. Target fleet is entering the trap zone. Minjung felt her heart rate increase. She had survived the first battle, but this would be much bigger, much more dangerous. But she wasn't afraid. She was angry. All Falcons, power up on my mark, she said softly. Remember, hit fast and disappear. Don't try to be heroes. The alien fleet moved confidently through the asteroid belt, their sensors sweeping for threats. They found nothing suspicious. Just rocks and ice, the debris of a young solar system that hadn't learned to organize itself properly. That's when the first mine exploded. The blast caught the cruiser Divine Purpose completely by surprise. One moment it was scanning asteroids, the next it was spinning out of control with a massive hole in its hull. We're under attack. shouted Commander Woo-sung from the damaged ship's bridge. Unknown weapons concealed in the asteroid field. Before Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo could respond, 6 more mines detonated around his formation. Ships that had dominated space for millennia suddenly found themselves fighting for survival against enemies they couldn't see. "Scatter formation," Kyung-soo ordered. "Find those weapons and destroy them." But the mines were just the beginning. As the alien ships spread out, Captain Min-jung led her squadron out of hiding. The human fighters came at the aliens from all directions, their engines burning bright in the darkness. "Falcon leader to all squadrons," Min-jung called over the radio. "The dance begins now." What followed was unlike any space battle in galactic history. The aliens were used to formal combat, ship against ship in organized formations. But the humans fought like a pack of wolves, coordinating attacks that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Pilot Sung-min dove his fighter between 2 alien cruisers, drawing their fire while his wingman attacked from behind. Marine Colonel Yoon-soo led a boarding party that captured an alien destroyer using nothing but magnetic grapples and portable airlocks. "They're boarding us," screamed the alien captain as human soldiers poured through his ship. "How is this possible?" The humans moved through the alien ship like they had trained for years to fight in zero gravity. They used the ship's own corridors against the defenders, turning maintenance tunnels into ambush points. Where did they learn to fight like this? Wondered Commander Se-jin as she watched her tactical display. The answer was simple. They hadn't learned it anywhere. They were making it up as they went along, using human instincts that had evolved through millions of years of survival. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos. Ships were exploding, others were being captured, and his tactical officers couldn't predict what the humans would do next. "Sir, we've lost 14 ships," reported his aide, Lieutenant Chang-ho. "The humans are using tactics we've never seen before." "Impossible," Kyung-soo muttered. "They're primitives. They shouldn't be able to coordinate attacks like this." But Admiral Young-soo was coordinating the battle from Ceres Station, using communication networks the aliens couldn't detect. Intelligence Chief Nari had cracked their tactical codes, allowing human forces to predict alien movements. "Enemy formation Delta is moving to intercept our fighters," Nari reported. "Recommend vector change to Gamma 7. All squadrons adjust course to Gamma 7, Young-soo ordered. Let's keep them guessing. The battle raged for hours. Human fighters darted between alien ships like angry hornets, while hidden weapons platforms emerged from camouflaged positions throughout the asteroid belt. Every time the aliens thought they had found all the human forces, more would appear from unexpected directions. Captain Seung-ho commanded a cruiser that had been built entirely from salvaged alien technology. His ship looked like a patchwork of different designs, but it was faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens had. "Target their command ship," Seung-ho ordered his weapons officer. "Time to cut off the head of the snake." His ship accelerated toward the Eternal Order, dodging plasma beams and missile strikes. Just when it looked like they would crash into the alien flagship, Seung-ho's ship suddenly split in half. "What are they doing?" gasped Commander Se-jin. The 2 halves of the human ship were actually separate vessels that had been designed to look like one. They flew past the alien flagship on either side, raking it with weapons fire. "Impossible," Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo shouted. "Ships can't do that." "Apparently human ships can, sir," Se-jin replied weakly. As the battle continued, something strange began happening to the alien crews. They had been trained to fight honorable battles against civilized opponents. But the humans didn't follow any rules. They used damaged ships as weapons, turned debris into projectiles, and seemed willing to sacrifice everything for victory. "Sir, morale is breaking down," reported Lieutenant Chang-ho. "The crew is scared." Kyung-soo couldn't believe what he was hearing. Council forces didn't get scared. They were the most advanced military in the galaxy. But as he watched another of his ships explode under human assault, he felt something he'd never experienced before. Doubt. The turning point came when Colonel Yoon-soo's boarding party captured the alien communications center. Suddenly, human voices were broadcasting over council frequencies. "Attention alien ships," came a calm human voice. "This is Admiral Young-soo of the Earth Defense Force. You came here to conquer us. Instead, you're being defeated by a species you called primitive. I'm offering you one chance to surrender." The alien fleet fell silent. In 10,000 years of conquest, no one had ever offered the Council a chance to surrender. If you leave now, Young-Soo continued, you can go home to your families. If you stay, you'll join the ships we've already destroyed. The choice is yours. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo looked around his damaged bridge. Half his fleet was gone. His remaining ships were barely holding together. And somewhere in the asteroid belt, more human forces were probably waiting to attack. For the first time in his career, Kyung-Soo gave an order he never thought he would give. All ships, retreat. Return to Council space immediately. As the surviving alien ships limped away from Earth's solar system, Admiral Young-Soo stood in his command center watching them go. Around him, his officers were cheering and celebrating their victory. But Young-Soo wasn't celebrating. He was thinking about what came next. "Sir," said Communications Officer Nari, "we're receiving messages from all over human space. They want to know what our next move is." Young-Soo looked at the tactical display showing the retreating alien fleet. 3 weeks after the Great Defeat, Captain Seung-ho led humanity's first strike beyond the solar system. His ship, the Defiant Star, dropped out of hyperspace near a Council military depot in the Centauri system. What he found there changed everything humans thought they knew about their enemies. The depot was massive, floating in space like a metal city. But it wasn't just a military base. Seung-ho's sensors detected something horrifying. Thousands of life signs in what looked like prison cells. "Captain," said his scanner operator, "Lieutenant Mi-young, I'm reading multiple species down there." "And, sir?" "Some of them matched the descriptions of races the Council claims went extinct." Seung-ho felt his blood run cold. "Are you saying the Council has been lying about genocide?" "Sir, I think the Council has been committing genocide." Back on Earth, Dr. Boram had made a breakthrough that terrified her. She had been studying captured Council technology when she discovered encrypted files in their computer systems, files that contained records going back thousands of years. "General Sun-ho," she called over the intercom, "you need to see this immediately." Sun-ho arrived at the research facility to find Boram staring at a holographic display filled with alien text and images. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "What am I looking at?" Sun-ho asked. "The Council's real history," Boram replied. "They didn't just conquer worlds, General. They systematically destroyed any species that refused to submit. 23 entire civilizations wiped out completely. The images showed burning cities, empty planets, and mass graves that stretched for kilometers. The Council hadn't just been demanding surrender, they had been practicing extermination." "How many beings?" Sun-ho asked quietly. "Conservative estimate? 70 billion. Boram's voice cracked. "And the survivors were sent to labor camps." Sun-ho stared at the evidence of the Council's crimes. Suddenly, Earth's war had become something much bigger than self-defense. It had become a war for justice. "Get this information to President Jin-ho immediately," Sun-ho ordered. "And send copies to every human ship in space. Our people need to know what we're really fighting." Captain Seung-ho was about to learn the same truth firsthand. His ship approached the Council depot carefully, scanning for defenses. What he found was a single automated defense grid and a small garrison of guards. "They're not expecting an attack," observed Tactical Officer Ye Jin. "Their security is minimal." Because they've never had to worry about anyone fighting back, Seung-ho realized. "Prepare boarding parties. We're going in." The attack on the depot was swift and brutal. Human soldiers, led by Marine Colonel Jin Woo, stormed through the facility like an unstoppable force. The Council guards had never faced an enemy that fought with such fury and determination. "Sector 7 clear," reported Jin Woo over the radio. "Moving to the detention areas." What they found in the detention areas would haunt the human soldiers forever. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species, all imprisoned for the crime of refusing Council rule. Some had been there for decades. An elderly being with purple skin and 6 arms approached Jin Woo cautiously. Are you here to rescue us?" she asked in broken Council standard. "Yes," Jin Woo replied through his translator. "We're humans from Earth. We're here to set you free." The being began to cry. "Humans?" But the Council said humans were primitive savages. "The Council says a lot of things," Jin Woo said grimly. "Most of them are lies." Word of the rescue spread through human space faster than light. Communications specialist Hee Jin had cracked the Council's communication networks, allowing her to intercept their panicked messages. "Admiral Young-Soo," she reported from Ceres Station. "The Council is in complete chaos. They're evacuating personnel from 12 systems. It looks like they're preparing for a full-scale human invasion. Young-Soo studied the tactical displays showing human ships scattered throughout Council space. What had started as a single rescue mission was becoming a campaign of liberation. Good, Young-Soo said. Let them run scared. Get me a direct line to all our ship captains. Minutes later, Young-Soo was addressing every human vessel in the galaxy. From fighters hiding in asteroid fields to cruisers prowling near alien worlds, hundreds of human voices listened to their admiral's words. People of Earth, Young-Soo began, we've discovered the truth about our enemies. The Galactic Council isn't just a government, it's a machine for genocide. For 10,000 years, they've been exterminating entire species and enslaving the survivors. He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. We didn't ask for this war, but now that we're fighting it, we have a choice. We can just defend our own world, or we can fight for everyone the Council has oppressed. I know what choice I'm making. The response was immediate. Every human ship in space reported ready for action. They weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. They were fighting for freedom itself. On the Council's capital world, Supreme Chancellor Dae-hyun was facing the worst crisis in the government's history. Reports of human attacks were flooding in from across the galaxy. And worse, news of the liberated prison camps was spreading to Council citizens. How did this happen? Dae-hyun demanded of his advisors. How did one primitive world become such a threat? War Minister Dong-min looked uncomfortable. The humans fight differently than anything we've encountered. They don't follow standard tactics. They coordinate attacks across multiple systems simultaneously. And, sir, they seem to know our weaknesses better than we do. Intelligence Director So Young stepped forward with a report that made Dae-hyun's skin turn pale blue with shock. Sir, we've discovered how the humans are coordinating their attacks. They've broken our communication codes. Impossible. They're not just reading our messages, sir. They're predicting our movements before we make them. The truth was even worse than the Council suspected. Communications Officer Hee-jin hadn't just broken their codes. She had infiltrated their entire network. Every Council message, every tactical plan, every strategic decision was being read by human intelligence within minutes of being sent. This is their next target, Hee-jin announced to Admiral Young-Soo, pointing to a star system on the tactical display. A major shipyard with minimal defenses. Young-Soo nodded to Captain Min-jung, who had been promoted to squadron leader after her heroics in the solar system. Take your people and hit it hard. But remember, we're liberators, not conquerors. Any being who wants freedom gets it. The attack on the Kepler shipyard became legendary throughout human space. Min-jung's squadron struck without warning, destroying the automated defenses before the Council garrison even knew they were under attack. But instead of destroying the shipyard, the humans did something unprecedented. They began broadcasting on all frequencies, speaking directly to the alien workers. Attention all beings, Min-jung announced. This is Captain Min-jung of the Earth Liberation Fleet. You are free to leave if you wish. Any who want to join our fight for freedom are welcome. Those who want to return home will be given safe passage. The response shocked everyone, including Min-jung herself. Hundreds of alien workers, many of whom had been forced to build ships for their own oppression, volunteered to join the human cause. Within days, human ships were crewed by beings from a dozen different species. The war for Earth's freedom had become a galaxy-wide revolution. General Tae-hyun, now commanding all human ground forces, was planning the liberation of the Council's largest slave camp when he received an unexpected message. It came from a Council officer named Commander Soo-jin. General Tae-hyun, the message began. My name is Soo-jin. I command a Council cruiser, but I no longer serve the Council's cause. I have evidence of war crimes that go back centuries. I want to help. Tae-hyun was suspicious at first, but when Soo-jin's ship arrived at the rendezvous point, she brought more than just intelligence. She brought 300 Council officers who had mutinied against their own government. Why? Tae-hyun asked her during their first meeting. Because I've seen what my government really is, Soo-jin replied, and I'd rather die fighting for justice than live serving murderers. The Council's perfect order was crumbling from within. As news of human victories spread, more and more Council citizens began to question their government's lies. Protests broke out on dozens of worlds. Council fleets found themselves fighting their own people as much as the human invaders. Supreme Chancellor Dae-hyun made one final, desperate decision. He activated a weapon that had been hidden in Council space for 1,000 years, a planet killer capable of destroying entire star systems. "If I cannot rule the galaxy," Daehyun declared to his remaining loyal followers, "then no one will." But human intelligence was watching. Communications Officer Hyejin detected the weapon's activation and immediately sent a warning to Admiral Young-soo. "Sir, they're targeting Earth," she reported. "Estimated time to firing position, 72 hours. Young-soo felt the weight of his species' survival on his shoulders. Everything they had fought for would be meaningless if Earth was destroyed. "Get me Captain Sung-ho," he ordered. "It's time for the most important mission in human history." As human forces raced to stop the ultimate weapon, beings across the galaxy watched and waited. The war that had started with one species saying no to tyranny was about to reach its climax. The ancient weapon called World Eater had floated in the dark space between stars for 1,000 years, waiting for the day the Council might need to destroy everything rather than lose control. It was as large as a moon and contained enough destructive power to crack planets like eggs. Captain Seung-ho's strike force consisted of just 12 ships, all that could reach the weapon in time. As they dropped out of hyperspace near the massive device, the scope of their task became clear. "How are we supposed to stop something that big?" asked Lieutenant Gunwoo, staring at the tactical display. "Same way we've stopped everything else," Seung-ho replied. "We hit it where it hurts." Dr. Mi Young, now serving as the fleet's technical specialist, had studied the weapon's design during the long journey. "The power core is here," she said, pointing to the display. "But it's protected by shields that could stop a fleet." "Then we don't attack the shields," Seung-ho said. "We go through them." What he meant became clear as the human ships approached the weapon. Instead of trying to break through the massive defensive barriers, they found the tiny maintenance ports that had never been designed to stop attackers. The Council had never imagined anyone would be desperate enough to fly into the heart of their ultimate weapon. "This is insane," muttered pilot Sung-jae as his fighter squeezed through a port barely larger than his ship. "Insane is our specialty," replied his wingman, pilot Hae-won. Meanwhile, on the Council's capital world, Supreme Chancellor Daehyun was making his final address to the galaxy. His three eyes glowed with fanatic determination as he spoke to citizens across hundreds of worlds. "For 10,000 years, the Council has brought peace to the galaxy," Daehyun declared. "But now that peace is threatened by primitive savages who don't understand civilization. If we cannot maintain order, then order itself must be destroyed." But his words were falling on deaf ears. Across Council space, beings who had lived in fear for millennia were rising up. The truth about the Council's crimes had spread like wildfire, and the people were demanding justice. On the world of Kepler-7, former Council Commander Soo-jin was leading a mixed force of humans and aliens against the local garrison. The battle was fierce, but the defenders' hearts weren't in it. How could they fight for a government that had lied to them about everything? "This is Commander Soo-jin," she broadcast to the garrison. "I know some of you personally. You're good beings with families and dreams. Don't die for a cause that's already lost." One by one, Council soldiers began laying down their weapons. The revolution was spreading faster than anyone could have imagined. Inside the World Eater, Captain Sung-ho's team was fighting their way toward the power core. The weapon's automated defenses had never been designed to fight enemies inside the structure, so they improvised, using maintenance robots and security systems in ways their programmers never intended. "Sector 12 clear," reported Marine Colonel Jin Woo. "But we're running out of time. The weapon's charging cycle is almost complete." Dr. Mi Young was working frantically at the power core's control center, her fingers flying over alien interfaces. "I can't shut it down," she said. "The system is locked." "Then we don't shut it down," Seung-ho said grimly. "We redirect it, sir. If we can't stop this weapon from firing, we make sure it hits the right target." What Seung-ho was suggesting was incredibly dangerous. Instead of trying to disable the weapon, they would reprogram its targeting system to fire at the Council's capital world instead of Earth. "Sir, that will kill billions of innocent beings," protested Lieutenant Gunwoo. Seung-ho felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. But then he thought about the 70 billion beings the Council had already murdered, and the countless more who would die if tyranny wasn't stopped. "Target the government complex only," he ordered Dr. Mi Young. "Minimum blast radius. Give the civilians time to evacuate." Mi-young's hands shook as she began reprogramming the weapon. She wasn't just changing coordinates, she was writing the final chapter of the Galactic Council's story. On Earth, President Jin Ho was addressing humanity one last time. The whole planet was watching as their leader spoke about the choice their species had made. "We didn't want this war," Jin Ho said simply. "We just wanted to be free. But sometimes freedom demands that you fight not just for yourself, but for everyone who can't fight for themselves." Admiral Young-soo watched the president's speech from Ceres Station, where he was coordinating the final assault on Council forces throughout the galaxy. Human ships were everywhere now, supported by alien allies who had thrown off the chains of oppression. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Hee Jin, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Council fleets. They want to negotiate." "Tell them to talk to the people they've been oppressing," Young-soo replied. "We're not interested in ruling anyone. We just want everyone to be free." That was the moment the galaxy began to understand what made humans different. They weren't trying to replace the Council with their own empire. They were trying to destroy the very idea of empire. Back on the World Eater, Dr. Mi-young finished her reprogramming just as the weapon's charging cycle reached completion. "It's done," she announced. "Target changed. The weapon will fire in 60 seconds. All teams evacuate immediately," Sung-ho ordered. "Move, move, move!" The human ships fled from the weapon as fast as their engines could carry them. Behind them, the World Eater began to glow with destructive energy that had been building for hours. Supreme Chancellor Dae-hyun was still broadcasting his defiant speech when his aide, Lieutenant Chang-ho, burst into his chambers with a panicked expression. "Sir, the weapon is targeting us." "Impossible," Dae-hyun snapped. "I programmed it myself." "Sir, the humans have taken control of the targeting system. Impact in 30 seconds. For the first time in his long life, Dae-hyun felt true fear. He looked around his luxurious office, filled with trophies from conquered worlds and artifacts from destroyed civilizations. All of it was about to be reduced to ash. 20 seconds, sir, Chang-ho whispered. Dae-hyun straightened his robes and faced the camera that was still broadcasting his image across the galaxy. For his final words, he chose honesty. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I thought we were bringing civilization to the galaxy, but we were just spreading fear. The humans showed us what civilization really looks like." The beam from the World Eater struck the Council's capital exactly where Dr. Mi-young had aimed it. The government complex vanished in a flash of light that could be seen from orbit. With it died the last hope of galactic tyranny. But the weapon's destruction wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of something new. 3 months later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on a neutral world to write a new charter for galactic civilization. The meeting was chaired by Ambassador Si-jin, a human diplomat who had spent years studying the mistakes of the past. "We're not here to create a new empire," Se-jin told the assembled delegates. "We're here to make sure that no empire can ever rise again." The galactic charter that emerged from those meetings was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of a central government that ruled over everyone, it created a federation where each world governed itself. The only universal laws were simple. No species could be enslaved, no world could be conquered, and everyone had the right to choose their own destiny. Admiral Young-soo became the first supreme commander of the Galactic Defense Force, but his role was limited to protecting weak worlds from strong ones. The fleet he commanded was made up of volunteers from dozens of species, all united by a simple belief: freedom was worth fighting for. Captain Min Jung, now Admiral Min Jung, commanded the fleet's first squadron, a mixed unit of human, Altarian, and former Council ships. As she looked out at her diverse crew, she marveled at how far they had all come. "Admiral," asked her aide, Lieutenant Haesu, "do you think the Council will ever return?" Min Jung thought about the question carefully. Maybe someday someone will try to recreate the Council's empire, but they'll face the same problem the Council faced. What's that? Once people taste freedom, they'll fight anyone who tries to take it away. On Earth, President Jin Ho was meeting with a delegation of former Council worlds that wanted to join the new Federation. The meeting was held in the same room where humanity had first decided to resist galactic tyranny. "Why should we trust humans to keep their promises?" asked one of the delegates, a being whose species had been enslaved for centuries. "Because we don't want to rule you," Jin Ho replied. "We just want to make sure no one else can." That simple answer captured the essence of what humanity had brought to the galaxy. Not conquest, but liberation. Not empire, but freedom. As the years passed, the galaxy healed from its long night of oppression. Worlds that had been slave camps became centers of learning. Species that had been declared extinct emerged from hiding. Art, music, and literature flourished as beings who had lived in fear finally felt safe to express themselves. And on a small blue world in an unremarkable solar system, children learned about the day their species had said no to tyranny and changed the course of galactic history. The age of empire was over. The age of freedom had begun. When Earth struck back, the Galactic Council had been clueless about what they were facing. They had expected to conquer another primitive world,